So yes, I look like garbage. I smell terrible. I got up this morning and ran 3 miles. And I smell terrible. But here we are. This is what I look like in my natural habitat. Hey guys, what's up? It's Heather with the Moscow. The amount of pollen that the wind just blew over was extreme south. Can taste it. Great. Today is actually my birthday, and I'm having a great birthday. But I had to meal prep this morning. I got to work the next 15 days. And for all the people that are like, oh, I only meal prep for an hour. No, ma'am. 2 hours later. I didn't cook hardly anything. The only thing I did was grilled chicken, make some salads with that grilled chicken. Overnight oats and smoothie bowls prep. So a lot of mixing, but not a whole lot of actual cooking. So, but that's a side note. Today, we are going to be out here talking about containers, kind of like a container 101 situation. Again, my name is Heather. This is the Moscow, where we are learning to garden together and trying things even when conditions aren't perfect. We live in East Tennessee, and my yard is almost completely shade. There's very few full sun spots, and I use those for my production gardening. My dogs are all over me like white on rice because I'm just sitting in a chair. But today I thought we would go over, because I'm about to do my containers for summer. Now, this is my favorite. Doing containers is my favorite thing to do out in the garden. I love it a lot. So I need to do a lot more manual labor projects and getting beds prepped and, things like that, the less fun gardening things. But it's my birthday, so I want to do containers, and so we're going to do containers, and we'll save that other crap for later. Maybe we'll hook up that one thing that Jason was so kind. He was so nice yesterday. I love any kind of weird evergreen, and he surprised me and got off work early yesterday and said, hey, do you want to go buy one of those sad trees you like? He says, it's weeping in the name. It says it's crying. And yes, I would love to buy a sad tree. I love them. So I got a weeping blue Atlas cedar that I'm going to put in a container. But that's a talk for another day. But Containers 101, this is going to be a Containers 101 type of situation. So we're going to talk through a few things, and then I'm going to talk to you about what I have planned for my containers. I may or may not plant one with you, but just everything you need to know, or that I think you need to know, or that I've learned about doing containers throughout the years. Maybe I don't need these sunglasses, so you can see my face might be a little better. Is that better? Probably is. Okay. So let's start out with type of container. Now, there are a whole bunch of different types of containers. Anything from your standard terracotta pot all the way up to and including plastic, self-watering, things you just make into containers. You got options. Around here, again, we live in a modern log cabin. I think what looks best with that is either black, sleek, modern containers if they're next to the house, or terracotta. And if it gets further from the house, I'll use terracotta plastic or terracotta covered plastic, especially if it's in a flower bed somewhere, because they're expensive. Containers are very expensive. Some of the pros and cons. So terracotta and concrete, like the natural stone containers, when you leave them out, they are thicker. They're going to insulate your plants better. So if you've got a plant that's on the verge of not going to make it and you're overwintering it in that container, it's going to give you a better bet than, say, a plastic container will, or anything that's thin-walled. However, with the freeze-thaw cycles, you do run the risk of cracking your containers. I do have a large terracotta pot that is cracked. I will never move that sucker. I don't care that it's cracked, as long as it doesn't come apart. And when it does, I'll replace it. So you can have, again, plastic versus stone, concrete, terracotta, all those things. And again, thickness is going to make a difference to wintering over your plants. Now, let's talk about self-watering versus traditional. If you're going to have a traditional container, meaning it has a drain hole, and you're going to put it on a porch, you need to think about what that's going to do to the floor of the porch. Also, what kind of saucer? You're going to need a saucer. If it's terracotta, you can get great matching terracotta saucers. However, unfortunately, A lot of people make these beautiful planters and they do not have saucers that match. And then you're stuck using plastic, and it's okay, but it could be better. So think about that. If that's going to have a drain hole, are you going to need some kind of saucer to go with it? Plastic containers are cheaper. They're easier to move around. I enjoy them. I use them. I think they're great. But if I was overwintering something, I would be a little bit more concerned. Now, I am going to put my new weeping tree in a large plastic container, but it's hardy to, zone -5. It's going to be just fine. Let's talk about where you're putting the container and how you're going to water it. So where you're putting this container is going to matter as far as, is it in the sun? Is it in the shade? Is it in a mixture? You can put a container anywhere. There's great solutions for shade, great solutions for sun, but where are you going to put it and how are you going to water it? So I've got several containers that are in the garden, like in the in flower beds. Because they are in, let's start with this. I don't do a good job remembering to hand water anything. I don't. Okay, if I have to hand water it, it's like a slow countdown to when it dies. Okay. Do I still keep trying it? Yes, because I have situations where I'm going to have to hand water stuff. Maybe one day I'll learn. So people are like, set a timer. I'm like, great, my timer will go off and I'll look at it and I'll say, oh, I'll do that later, and I never do it. There are, if it is going to be somewhere where it has to be hand watered, how close and easy is it for you to water it and see it and remember it? There's some that are right next to my door. They're right there. I don't forget those because I walk past them every single day when I leave. And if I go to get ready for work and they look sad, there's a hose right there on a hose link. I just pull it out, I water it real quick, I put the hose back. It's like a 3-minute thing. No big deal. The only other containers that I have that are not on drip are next to my front door. There's 2 black containers that I just put up there. They have a water reservoir on the bottom. They have a lot of soil in them. I'm trying to keep them full of water. I'm not doing a very good job. Because I don't see them all the time, but I have like pitchers that I can use, like that you make tea in, to pour the water in there to make that a little easier on me. So if you're going to have to hand water it, make sure it's not hard to hand water it, because you won't do it if it's not easy for you to do. Everything else, every other container I have automatically goes on drip irrigation. So I will either slide drip up through the bottom of the hole, a black drip tube, and then put brown drip tubing around the plants. I have a video about that on my channel. I will link it down below. But everything else has to go on drip, and you have to do it the day you plant it. I'm so guilty of this, thinking, oh, I'll just hook that up on drip a little later, and then I don't, and I forget, and I run out of time, or I'm working 15 days in a row. It is very windy out here. And so if I start hollering into this, that's why. I don't know why I'm holding this like this. It's a new thing I'm doing. But how are you going to water it? Make sure it's easy for you to water. If it's something that doesn't have a drain hole, make sure that you're not overwatering it. It would be so easy to overwater something without a drain hole, and then your plants are just sitting there in water. These are distracting me. And we don't want that, so we're not going to do that. So just make sure that you limit the number of things that don't have a drain hole, and make sure that you're got a way to water it that's going to work for you. Okay? It doesn't really matter what time of day you water it. If you water it in the morning, always water it in the morning. If you water it in the evening, always water it in the evening. It really doesn't matter. As long as it's getting water, it'll adapt. It's fine. Like these, plants are resilient. They can handle some stuff. So let's talk about what you're going to fill your pot with. If it's a really large container, you just saw me do my raised beds and I put logs in the bottom. I consider that to be somewhere between a large container and not. If it's going to be a large container, you could technically fill the bottom third or so with whatever. This is very controversial. Some people are going to pop up in the comments and be like, don't do that. Don't do that. I fill mine all the way with soil because it just is one less step. It's easier. I don't have any super large containers. Anything that I have is probably 25 inches or smaller, so it doesn't bother me. Also, if it's a large container like that, most likely I've put a small tree in it because I love a small tree in a container with stuff underneath it. Just love it. And therefore, I just fill mine all the way with soil. You could, though, if it's a very large container, potentially fill the bottom third or so with something else. I do want to talk about size of container real quick. So there is a prominent person on Instagram who I love her stuff, and she says small pots turn into crock pots, meaning they're going to cook those roots in the summer. So you want to account for that. If it's going to be in a very high sun area, you want to make sure it's going to get enough water. So keep that in mind, that the smaller that pot, the more you're watering it, the more it dries out. Okay. So now that we've selected our type of container, whether it's plastic or something natural, you can make anything a container, by the way. You could find something at a thrift store, as long as it holds soil, plug some holes in the bottom of it, you're good to go. Okay. I see a lot of people, especially if you're into the farmhouse style, that'll find the old crocks that are like really big ones. Those would be beautiful as containers. For me, this very modern aesthetic here, a metal container, pop holes in the bottom of it. I've bought those like buckets, those metal galvanized buckets, and popped holes in them and made containers. That way, anything can be a container if it's got a drain hole and a hold soil. Just keep in mind that if it's thin walled or the metal ones and it's small, it's going to cook your plant's roots quicker. So we've got our container, we've selected where it's going to go. Let's talk about how we're going to compose the container. So there's a couple things. The first one is, are you going to do a monopot where it's just one plant and it makes a nice mound or like multiple colors of the same type of plant? Super petunias are beautiful for this, especially in a line, especially if you're trying to do multiple pots kind of down a straight line. Beautiful for this. Or you can do the filler, spiller, thriller strategy. So that is probably the most common way most people will compose their pots. A thriller being something tall, something that stands up higher than everything else. Then a filler, that's something that's kind of mounding. Rue is like, why are you not petting me? You're sitting here, you've got useless hands. So a filler, something that's just kind of mounding, covers the distance between the thriller and the pot. And then a spiller, something to come off the edges and kind of soften those edges. Now there's two ways to once you've said, okay, I want to do either monopot, or if you're going to do filler, spiller, and thriller, there's two ways to kind of line those up. The first one being having your thriller directly in the center of the pot, and then alternating around the pot fillers and spillers, so that all the way around the pot, this is a pot you're seeing all the way around the pot, you're getting a good view of all those. If it's going to be backed up to a door, such as this container here, usually I will put my thriller in the back, my fillers kind of in the middle-ish, and my spillers around the edges. Kind of like a step-down approach, but if you're not going to see the back, that's how I compose the container. Let's talk a few minutes now that we've covered how we're going to style it. Let's talk about color schemes. To me, this is the most important part of the whole shebang. No one's stopping you, it's your garden. Go into the garden center and pick out all the things that you love, and as long as their light requirements are similar, shove it into a container and it'll grow. But if I'm looking at composing something that looks good and adds to the decor of my house and my yard, then I want to make sure I'm staying within certain color combinations. So the first one that I want to talk about is like a monotone color. So let's say you just want to do all pinks with green foliage. You could do that. You could do a thriller that's some kind of green grass or some kind of like green Japanese maple Or you could do like an Angelonia if it was in the sun, that's pink, that's tall. And then beneath that, you could do, Super Tunia Bubblegum, or if it's in the sun, or it's going to come to me. Surefire Pink Begonias, Surefire Rose Begonias. I have a bunch of those this year for my containers, with, ivy. And that would be really pretty, but you're keeping it all in one color scheme. You could do all pink, you could do all purple, you could do all green, but a monotone. And of course, if you're doing just a mounding container, you're just going to pick a couple things that have the same colors. The next color scheme I want to talk about is white and green. So lots of plants that have variegation, white flowers. White and green always looks good. It always looks classic. It's like ferns and white hydrangeas and white begonias, or white. I did one of these a couple years ago, and I'll post it too. I'm going to throw up some examples. But white and green, always classic, always beautiful, goes with everything. Wonderful. Maybe you want to do a more Americana theme. So you want to do red, white, and blue. So a white Angelonia that's tall, or a fern, and then you're going to do red and white Surefire begonias. With blue's kind of hard to come by, but there's Laguna Sky Blue Lobelia. There's some Vincas that are in the blue family. Things of that nature. So red, white, and blue Americana, that's another good color scheme. You could do tropical colors. You could do lots of oranges and yellows and pinks. A lot of your Super Tunias and Super Bells are going to lend really well to this, but very tropical color tone. And if you want to carry that throughout, I like to carry it throughout my color scheme, throughout my landscape for the year. And that's the thing about annuals, is you can change them out all the time. And then if I'm in my vegetable garden and I just want to try something random, I put it out there because it doesn't have to match. One of my favorite, and probably the one that I lean on the most in the landscape, but also I like to do in containers, is to do green foliage, green, red, yellow, and blue. Leaning a lot on foliage and then accents of flowers. So I like flower beds as well as up here. I think it looks really good. And my house is kind of an orangey red, so it contrasts. But something blue, such as a blue spruce or that weeping blue Atlas cedar. I've got two traditional blue Atlas cedars that we're going to be doing underneath. And yellow, meaning like a chartreusey color. That could be, I've got some chartreuse looking heucheras. You could do Creeping Jenny is chartreuse in color. There are hostas that are chartreuse in color. You could do a sweet potato vine. The sweet potato vines are great kind of spiller combo plants. They have black ones. They've got chartreuse ones. Coleus, there's a coleus that's very chartreuse in color. So that yellow kind of chartreusey color. Blue, you could do blue hostas. You could do, like I say, a blue evergreen. Blue fescue grasses are blue. Dichondra Silver Falls lends to that blue color. Red, so Japanese maples, I lean a lot on those dark red heuchera. Love those. They grow so great in containers for us, and they look fabulous. They're dark reddish purple, beautiful. There's coleus that are red. Some of the begonias have a reddish tint to their foliage. So red, and then blue, red, yellow, and then green, of course. Everything is green, I feel like. But, ferns, any kind of bush. So if you had like an evergreen centerpiece that was a bush, that would also be in the green. I love that. That is my favorite. So that is what I think about when I'm at the store. What kind of color scheme do I want? And then try to find plants to match it. And those plants need to go in sun or shade. Here we've got a lot of shade. There are a lot of plants that will do both sun and shade, and I find that I lean on those a lot because I've got a lot of transition areas, and/or I want to be able to transition plants or have a cohesive look. So I wanted to go through the screen. I've got several planters, several times that I've done these planters next to me that I really love. The first one, I put in a hydrangea, I think there might have been a fern in there, but there was a heuchera and a hosta. It looked really good. I've also done a green and white for this one. Lots of ferny foliage, lots of begonias. Begonias grow really well for me, and for the most part, some of the Proven Winners varieties will do sun or shade, so I love those. I'm going to throw up a couple more inspiration pieces here from different people that I've really, really enjoyed. I am trying to get more into caladiums. I've shied away from them before, but now that my dogs can't reach some of my containers, I can use them because I don't have to worry about the dogs eating them because they're toxic to dogs. Finally, I wanted to give you a couple resources if you want to look some things up. Some of the people that I like to follow for gardening, Carmen Johnson Gardens on Instagram. Her containers are beautiful. Her landscape design is beautiful. It's very classic. It speaks Southern to me, and I love to add that into my garden. I love her stuff. In one of her containers, this one here, is inspiring my front porch containers. Also, Garden Answer, you can't go wrong with Garden Answer. She has put up many, many videos about containers that are just really, really beautiful, and especially if you're looking to do some of that green, yellow, red, and blue, I would look at some of her containers. They look really incredible. Also, if you go on Proven Winners website, they have a container recipe search so that it can help you kind of narrow down if you're not familiar with which plants do well and which light requirements. Then there you go. It'll show you. It'll do a search for you. So let's take a walk around real quick. I'm going to clip this to me, and I'll show you the plants that I have staged out or that I have purchased for my containers. And at some point we will do like a container video where we sit down and go over the containers that I did. I do just want to have time today to get out here and plant these. So this container here, this grouping of containers, I do like to do a grouping of containers. I think it's really fun. It fills the space. I have always needed to put something above it or to have something tall enough to make sense, but we will do this later this year, and this will definitely get a green, blue, red, and yellow treatment. Okay, so this here is one of the, and I need to straighten it back up again, one of the Japanese maples that I had. And so what it's going to get underneath it, because it's already this red, and we'll do the red, green, yellow, is these beautiful chartreuse heucheras. These are not ones that'll take sun or shade. Some of them will. This is not one of them. These are actually going to go next to my front porch. Let me show you over here. These are going to go next to my front porch with some blue star fern and these. I'm using a lot of these this year. I'm very excited about them. Let me see if I can get them in the shade so you can get it really good. These are Surefire Rose Begonias, and I usually do more red in my garden than pink, but I love the way this looks with the containers. So what we'll be doing in here is we'll be alternating this. And then I've got my chartreuse green here. I've got my red from my Japanese maple. And then my spiller is going to be these Dichondra Silver Falls because it does have that blue, let me see if I can get it, the camera's not happy, the blue tone to it to contrast, again, blue, green, chartreuse. And then we will go in between them with the Surefire Rose because these leaves will contrast those leaves really well. And we'll be able to get a cohesive, you can see I have a bunch more of them here. We'll be able to get a cohesive look, but lots of contrast, lots of color scheme thought out. So we'll definitely have our blue, our red, our green. Might be a little lacking on the green, but that'll be okay. So I also have some Creeping Jenny here, and I've got these beautiful heucheras here. And again, remember these Surefire Rose Begonias. So up here, two of these containers here that have got the blue Atlas cedars. So there's our blue. This one has Creeping Jenny that actually wintered over from last year. So we'll do Creeping Jenny. And then the other container over there, I do need to replace some of its Creeping Jenny. But then in between those, we're going to do the Heuchera and the Surefire Rose Begonias. So that we'll have the blue, the green, and the red, and the chartreuse. Again, up here on the porch, I do need to spruce these up. I need to do a better job of watering them because the ferns look very sad. But we're going to remove these. We're going to leave our holly fern. We're going to put in a blue star fern. We're going to water this because these look very sad. And then we'll do the caladiums and the begonias in here. So this will be an all pink situation here, but it will mirror some of the flowers that are going to be in those containers. So I'm going to get after it and plant up these containers. The one thing I will say is when I go to plant containers, I like to put fertilizer in them. Now, if you're doing a Super Bells, Super Tunia, something that requires a ton of food, I would put the Proven Winners the Proven Winners granulated fertilizer in the pots, Biotone in the pots, and I would put I would do the continuous release fertilizer once a week. That being said, these plants, the begonias, don't need as much fertilizer. I don't have anything that's really feed heavy that I'm putting in. Now, in the swoop next to my driveway, I will put Super Tunias down there. I'll do Super Tunia Vista Jazzberry because I love that. So I will do that there. I will continually Proven Winners water soluble and once weekly on all your Super Tunias, your Super Bells, things that are feed heavy. I would do it then. These aren't going to need all that, so I'm going to put the Biotone in the pots, and then I probably won't fertilize it for the rest of the year unless it looks like it's not blooming. So I'm going to get after these, and then when I get done, I'll give you a walk around of what we do. Alrighty, so we made that video about planting containers, and I looked, dare I say, more put together than I look now. That was 15 days ago. I did plant the things. I did not have time to come to finish the video. And then I worked for 15 days. And I'm exhausted. And it's also 15 days past our last frost date. So I need to plant my vegetable garden, and I need to do it right this instant. And I thought to myself, I don't have time to finish this video, but I'm trying to get more consistent with it, and like a more cohesive story as to what's going on in this yard. So yes, I look like garbage. I smell terrible. I got up this morning and ran 3 miles. And I smell terrible. But here we are. This is what I look like in my natural habitat. Okay. If you could smell me, though, you would not be happy. Let's look at the plants. Stop talking, you know. So this is probably my favorite container. All of this was a birthday present. So that's fun. But we've got this Japanese maple here. This container will probably stay here. I love this. But to contrast the red of this foliage, we have the bright green of the Heuchera, the blue of the Dichondra Silver Falls, and then the pink from the Surefire Begonia, the Rose Surefire Begonia. I love these. I love this planter. I love this mix of plants. I love the contrast in foliage color. This is what I'm talking about when I say foliage color. It makes the whole thing. This is going to go in a flower bed that needs some blue, and so then we can put underneath it probably more red things. I've used a lot of Heuchera this year. I may try to do something different underneath this one. Maybe some white would be good. But then in the front of that bed, we've got some more yellow and blue things. Again, yellow, blue, and green. By the way, these got completely trampled last year, and look how incredible they are looking right now. And I need to replace 2, and I need to weed this, but again, 15 days worth of work. So let's go up here and look at these other planters that we did that aren't quite as successful as that one, but still pretty good. Up the stairs. And you can see this one, and from this side, it's looking pretty good. pretty good. So we've got the blue from the Blue Atlas Cedar. We've got the red of the Heuchera and the bright green chartreuse from the Creeping Jenny. And then we have the Surefire Rose Begonia again, because I'm tying all my planters together with that this year. The problem is that I split these Heuchera, and when I did, I didn't get any root ball on this one, and it does not look like it's going to survive. But I think that the Rose Begonia will actually just take up that space and it'll be okay. But this is looking really good. This combination of plants is looking really good. And then eventually we will weed again, but all the way here we are going to do, what are they called? Oak leaf hydrangeas, and we're going to hope that it's not too sunny right here for them. I need to weed a lot, again, 15 days. One of my goals for this year is to be more consistent and have some discipline when it comes to maintaining my garden. What tends to happen is I work really long stretches, and then when I come back, it's a huge undertaking to try to get it back under control. So what I'm hoping to do is to stay on top of it. Every morning I wake up at least 4 days a week, and I've been consistent with that since January, and work out. And I would like to work out for 30 minutes and then maintenance the garden for 30 minutes at least 4 days a week. I've done it once, but I'm working on it, and I'm hoping that that will help me. I want to swing you around and look at something else too while we're up here. So remember last year with the grass? It's looking pretty good. There's obviously still some bare spots, and I did seed it again, but it's looking much better than it was looking last year. It's looking fairly good. And then when I transplanted all of these hosta, I thought my dogs killed them, but they didn't, and it looks really great, and I really love it with that Japanese maple. But I do need to come in here, weed it, mulch it, add the drip. That's on the list, but we got to get this vegetable garden planted. Also, if you notice way back there, there are some other hydrangeas, and they are looking extremely healthy because the dogs can still get in this flower bed, believe it or not. They have not really messed with it that much. I think they're learning that flower beds are just a place that I don't want them, and so they don't want to be there. Here is the other planter that mirrors that one, and what I will say about that is this one is in a completely different sun situation. So you'll see a difference on the Surefire Rose Begonias are killing it. That's why I say this is a great plant for sun and shade. They're killing it. The Heuchera looks slightly different, but it still looks really good here, and the Creeping Jenny is looking good. So again, the reason we're choosing these plants is for their combination of foliage colors primarily, and I did the same thing with this one. You see I killed that root ball. But they look good in sun or shade, and I think these two planters really mirror each other really, really well without looking like a mess, except for the weeds. Gosh, we got to get out here with some weeds. And I'm really loving using pine straw for my mulch this year. And finally, the containers that I don't love the most, and I knew they were going to be the biggest challenge, are up here on the porch where it is very dark. Hold on, let me fix my steps. Whoop, sorry baby, there's a dog behind me. Now, the problem up here is not the dogs. The problem up here is that these are quote-unquote self-watering containers, and I'm either underwatering them or overwatering. Look at all that new growth on this beautiful caladium. The ferns are looking decent. The begonia is looking like it's getting too much water. I think the whole thing's probably too wet right now, and I need to let it dry out and not water it for a fortnight. There's a doggy wanting to go in. This one, again, caladium, new growth, green fern looking good. The begonia is not holding its own. They certainly look lush. They look good on this porch. It's nice to have something up here again. I need to figure out what in the world I can do with all this porch. Please comment below as what I should do with all this porch. Like, should I just do more rocking chairs and make it like a cohesive, like 3 or 4 more over here? Someone recently gave me some Adirondack chairs I could put on here. Paint them black and put them on here. So we'll see. But as of right now, things are looking a lot better. But that is kind of my container game. Foliage that's interesting, things that do well in multiple light conditions. And again, the grass is getting better. It is getting better. It's not great, it's getting better. And that just gives me so much hope right there. I thought all that was dead. So anyhow, please put pictures of your favorite containers down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I'm going to go plant this vegetable garden. I'll make a video about it. But I'm going to go plant this vegetable garden because it needs to be done. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to weed this week. Weeds, man. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.